Hello, Cary Nosler, health and longevity researcher for Enhanced Athlete. And today we're going to take a look at an old food made new. That's milk. This is in response to a question from a viewer in Alberta, Canada, who wanted to know about milk and bodybuilding. Well, there's some really interesting information, new information actually, about milk and its ability to help in recovery, muscle protein synthesis, and fat loss, which we will go over. You might have noticed in the last Olympics there were several Olympians who were using milk at the end of their race as a recovery drink, and that has spurred part of the interest in just why they would do that. Dairy foods have been traditionally associated with their calcium content. That's what they've been promoted for, and the associated bone health benefits, but it goes way, way beyond that. And the calcium itself might not be the major consideration. It could be the calcium within the milk, and especially a certain type of milk. Obviously, milk is a source of food for young mammals. That's the only food that we are designed to eat at birth. The problem for most people, or a lot of people, is that after the weaning, the body is unable then to produce an enzyme, lactase, which helps to digest lactose and glucose, the sugars that you find. With the advent of the agricultural age, when we started raising herds of animals for meat and for milk, interesting thing happened evolutionarily. Certain people didn't lose the ability then to keep generating lactase. So you find people in the world, especially European, Northern European, and even parts of Africa where they had traditionally had herds, India as well, where the people can handle milk quite well. And even in areas of the world where there may be lactose intolerance, they've learned how to prepare the milk. In this case, fermenting it, like as in yogurt or kefir or hard cheeses, so that most of the lactose is changed, the milk sugar is changed in the process of fermentation, and or it's gone away when they make the hard cheese, and most of it leaves in the whey or in the milk part. 80% of the protein in milk is casein, and that's important. That forms a gel in the stomach. It provides a slow release of amino acids, which is what you want, over several hours. The remaining 20% is whey, which we all know about. That's the liquid portion of milk that's been left over during the cheese making process, and obviously one of the most important bodybuilding supplements there happens to be. Back in the old days of bodybuilding, they didn't have whey, they didn't have even good protein drinks, so milk was the preferred source. And it was interesting going over the literature. It was touted as being a food that would help them not only with their strength but also to gain weight. And I noticed that present day posts from so-called hard gainers, they were found that also milk was able to help them add some weight, some muscle mass to their body. During exercise, intense exercise, fluid and electrolytes are lost in sweat. They have to be replaced to prevent dehydration. If you're dehydrated, not enough fluid, your performance goes way, way down. You just can't perform as well as you would like to. Fluid uptake in the small intestine now is enhanced by the presence of glucose and sodium. Guess what? Both of which are found in milk in ideal quantities. Prepared a 2008 study from the School of Sport and Exercise Science at Loughborough University in England. They looked at a commercial sports drink on exercise performance and using either glucose, or milk I should say, or milk with glucose. The milk with glucose and the milk itself both perform just as well as the sports drink, and obviously cost less and provided a lot more nutrition. It prolonged the time to exhaustion as effectively as the sports beverage. That particular information gained a lot of traction there for a period of time without any changes to metabolic or what they call thermoregulatory processes, the ability of the body to generate heat, to burn fat, for example, or to produce energy. Further studies also found the addition of milk protein to a carbohydrate solution aids rehydration more effectively than carbohydrate-only drinks after exercise. Nutrition, carbohydrates, again, as we mentioned before, are required to restock glycogen stores. Especially after intense exercise, you need to replace your glycogen. Protein, at the same time, supports muscle repair and can actually accelerate glycogen resynthesis. That boosts performance in subsequent training sessions, and to benefit, a mix of both is required. So guess what combines both of those two quantities? Milk, a blend of protein and carbohydrate, as I said, becomes an inexpensive and effective recovery food. And this was interesting. Research shows 3-to-1 ratio of carbohydrate to protein is most effective for recovery, which can easily be found in the form of milk, and especially, believe it or not, chocolate milk. Good quality chocolate milk is a terrific performance enhancing and glycogen enhancing beverage at the end of a workout. As I mentioned before, though, in terms of protein, it's not just the quantity that makes milk an effective recovery. As I said, it's a blend of 20% whey, 80% casein. As you know, casein, slow digesting, which results in a longer rise in amino acids. You need those amino acids for protein, muscle protein synthesis. No muscle protein synthesis, no added muscle and added strength and size. The milk, again, as I said, also had the 20% whey, which is a fast-acting food which will help with that immediate recovery from some type of exercise. And you can get supplements, incidentally, that'll combine casein with whey, or you can just have a good glass of milk. Now, interesting too, calcium plays a role in body fat regulation, and this is kind of interesting. Laboratory models show that low calcium intake stimulate fatty acid deposition and suppressed fat oxidation. What happens? You gain weight. Low calcium diets associated with higher rates of obesity, while high dairy diets associated with greater reduction in body fat and weight loss. Now, it's kind of interesting too, because it's not just the calcium. If you take calcium supplements, that doesn't happen. But calcium in the milk is an effective weight loss. And here's what's even more interesting. All the hoopla about fat being the great villain that it was, that led to people drinking skim milk or non-fat milk. Well, it turns out the skim milk and the non-fat do not have the same effect on body fat regulation like the full fat milk, nor does the full fat milk lead to greater increase in heart disease risk. In fact, there are certain bioactive compounds that you find in the fat that make milk an ideal whole food. If you take it away, you've got a processed food, so to speak. Fat-soluble vitamins, for example, just don't digest as well without fat, which is what you get in the full-fat milk. 2012 meta-analysis of controlled clinical trials looked into dairy consumption and body weight in adults. They found that consumption of high-fat dairy led to significantly greater weight loss, but it had to be the full fat. I want to go over this a bit too. I did notice when I looked at the research that in this particular case, it does pay to find a quality milk product. A full fat product, ideally organic and from cows that eat grass. Cows that eat grain and soybeans, which they never were meant to eat, have much higher levels of omega-6 fats, and we have a problem with that. The military is actually doing research into adding more omega-3 fats because it improves the battlefield performance and the mental cognitive abilities of the soldiers as well. And it turns out milk, organic milk from grass-fed cows is a significant contributor to omega-3 fats, which is very, very important, much more than the cows that are fed grain. There's also a special fat in full-fat milk, CLA, conjugated linoleic acid. That could be one of the bioactives that is especially important for fat loss. You can take supplements actually of CLA by itself, but in milk itself, they probably interact with other nutrients to make it a very good food. So I've got to say, in all honesty, that after I did the research, it was so compelling. I have added some milk into my program. We're fortunate here in California, we can find a raw certified raw milk dairy. That's pasture, where the cows are pasture fed and organic and all those other kind of good things. So get the best quality you can, and maybe the old adage about milk is a perfect food, well, maybe there is some truth to that. I'm Cary Nosler, health and longevity researcher for Enhanced Athlete.
Yeah, hundreds on my bed, flexing with the bill. Roses in my wallet and I'm flexing it for real. Racks and racks and racks, I look like rookie of the year. Frontin' with the cash, it's getting moody over here. Hundreds on my bed, flexing with the bill. Roses in my wallet and I'm flexing.